Hey guys, it's Bryan, your friendly neighborhood reviewer, and today on the showcase, I'm going to talk about Paul McCartney and Wings. Actually, their very last album as a group, 1979's Back to the Egg. Kind of unusual title, I guess. Back to relearning to rock, back to what the basics, that kind of thing. That's what the theme of it is. This is pretty cool looking album. This front cover is probably one of the coolest front covers they ever did. Linda looks amazing on it. I mean, she just looks hot. But yeah, the whole group looks amazing. They picked up 2 new members on this. 2 new here. Here's the back cover. Good one there. All right. But they picked up 2 new members. Okay. They picked up guitarist Lawrence Juber, who's right here. And then they picked up drummer Steve Hawley. They're British guys. They're from London. To replace Joe English and Jim McCullough. Jim McCullough had left to join the reformed Small Faces, but he died of a drug overdose not too long after he left Wings, unfortunately. A very talented fellow. Very sad. And then Joe English was missing home. He was very homesick. And when they got done with the tour and Wings over America and all that, he kind of quit. They were recording, and he is featured on some of London Town, the Wings album before this one. Columbia was they got a new record company in America. All right, the last album they did, London Town, that was the last one they did for Capitol, and then Paul moved on to Columbia Records. The first single they did for Columbia was "Good Night Tonight," a big hit, monstrous hit. It was recorded at the same time as that single, and some people think it should have been left on the album. It's not a big deal, but it's a standard British thing. They did not put singles on albums, very rarely. That's more of an American thing, to squeeze a little more money out of it. British was more about giving the public more bang for their buck because they didn't have a lot of bucks. So if you bought a single, you want to make sure that it wasn't on the album and it had a B-side that you didn't have that was pretty good. So, but "Good Night Tonight" should have been on the album simply because it was in the television special. Paul McCartney and them had done a TV special on Back to the Egg, but it's an amazing special. It takes like 7 songs from the album and then "Good Night Tonight" and makes music videos out of them. But the neat thing about the Back to the Egg special, if anything else, just watch the first 2 minutes of it or the first minute of it. It's got the neatest opening I've ever seen in a special. The closing too, it bookends very nicely. It's just amazing. If you anything, just watch that. It mimics the album cover, so make sure you know the album cover. Definitely check that out. So it's interesting because they had done a special for this album. They'd already done. They've got this album together. They've already booked and toured. They were doing a tour. We'll get to the Japanese thing in a minute. But anyway. But cool. But this is a neat album. Really cool. I love the photographs. Inside, you've got this custom sleeve. That's pretty cool. With almost like a church chapel with the wings and thing. That's kind of neat. And the dove in the middle. It's kind of neat. Little custom sleeve with a little plastic thing here. And then this with all the tracks and everything on it. So, I'll go through the tracks a little bit and then kind of deal with that. All right. There's a lot of critics really, the main problem with this album, there's 2 problems that critics have with this album, and the same 2 problems I've got too, unfortunately. The lyrics. I mean, I've talked about how Paul McCartney can be a little slapdash on the lyrics a little bit, This is really, this is ridiculous. This is probably one of his worst lyric albums ever. I mean, I'm just being honest. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like if he could, he would just go up there, yell a bunch of gibberish just so he can have something to say. I don't understand that. This man can write lyrics. This man is extremely good at writing lyrics, but he refuses to write lyrics. I don't know why. He's better at it now. In fact, but for a while, it's almost like he just wanted to react against all the Beatles stuff a little bit. I think he was just trying to find his own identity a little bit. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But lyrically, this is pretty fluffy. I mean, boy, it's fluffy. But the theme of it, there is a theme that goes through it of maybe turning a radio dial and turning to different stations and hearing different music come on. So it's a loose theme that him and co-producer Chris Thomas, which that's something else. He got Chris Thomas, a amazing producer. He got his start mixing a lot of things. In fact, his big famous mix was Dark Side of the Moon. He okayed the final mix with Roger Waters and David Gilmour together, okaying the final mix of Dark Side of the Moon. That was his work. He got involved in producing Badfinger. He got involved in producing the Sadistic Mika band from Japan. And then he was exclusive with Procol Harum, worked with him exclusively, worked with Roxy Music a lot, big time. So this guy, and while he was doing this album, this was between producing the Sex Pistols debut album and the Pretenders debut album. So he was amazing. Very good producer. Very good atmospherics. Very good sound. You can tell he's a very musician's kind of a guy. He gets good sound out of the instruments. So this is a very well produced album. Extremely well done. Musicianship is killer. Again, the slapdash lyrics hurt him really bad on this one, because it's just gibberish, a lot of it. But aside from that, also too, when I was talking about the George Harrison album last time, the Dark Horse album, the last review I did, I talked about how the Beatles, I cannot deal with trite writing when it comes to the Beatles. Paul McCartney on this album is very trite. In other words, he'll state a theme like the Rockestra theme, and which is a good theme. I like the theme. I'll say that the theme is fine. But he doesn't do anything with it. He just states it, and that's it. I mean, in fact, it really bothers me more so on the Rockestra theme than anything else, because you have all these amazing, oh my gosh, of who's who great musicians on this. My gosh, how come you're going to have members of Led Zeppelin, John Bonham, John Paul Jones? I mean, why are you going to have these people on here? Why are you going to have David Gilmour on here? Why are you going to have freaking Gary Brooker, freaking Procol Harum on here? Why are you going to have these people on here if you're just going to sit there and do the same damn riff, and nobody's going to improvise? Nobody's going to just start soloing? I mean, come on. Seriously, I mean, look at this. I mean, ridiculous. Hank Marvin, dear God, Hank Marvin was of the Shadows. He was a Cliff Richard in the Shadow. He is one of the most influential guitarists. Why are you going to have these people in here and do da 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 da? I mean, come on, that's it. That's all you're going to do. And I mean, you know, come on. That's what bothers me. Is like you have all these great musicians, and you do nothing to utilize them. Very bad decision. And that won a Grammy. That's pathetic on the Grammys. But then again, I'm so glad to see you here when the Rockestra band comes on with that song. That actually does better. That song has actually really grown on me. There's some grit to that song. I like that song. And then when he couples it with the We're Open Tonight theme and ties it to the first side, that's brilliant. I love when he does that. That's the kind of stuff he needs to do more often. So we'll go ahead and start. Like I said, Reception. We'll start with the tracks. Okay, Reception, the first track. Love it. I love Reception. A lot of people don't give this a lot of credit, but I think it's perfect. It is a perfect opener. The bass line is absolutely killer on that. Totally memorable. Remember, Paul McCartney is the one that could do like Her Majesty and little ditties like that, 20 seconds, and he could make it stick. Kind of like Brian Wilson. Brian Wilson can do that too. Take a minute song or a 30-second song and make it stick. He does that Reception. The bass line is killer. The little spoken fragments work on that one. It's just a perfect opener. And then it bursts full tilt boogie into Getting Closer. Getting Closer is one of those rockers of his that's not gotten a lot of credit. Even though it's a great rocker, I do love it. I really do. The lyrics are just, again, fluff. If he had coherent lyrics to it, this could have been one of his best songs. It really could have been. That riff at the end, him and Lawrence Stewart talked about the ending. There was supposed to be a guitar solo originally, but then Paul McCartney had the idea of doing this kind of like up and down kind of keyboard kind of sound. And it works neat. I love that end riff, that dun 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 dun. That is genius. That is the genius side of Paul McCartney right there. Like I said, the lyrics ruin the song a little bit, so it's a shame. It's a shame because it's a great song, great rocker. But then again, okay. But then you go from reception, getting closer to We're Open Tonight. Nice little introduction, which is kind of like a little breather, kind of little, kind of like Venus and Mars on Venus and Mars. Very pretty little ballad. It's kind of a nice little segue thing, and he reprises it on the second side, so it really is neat. So it kind of anticipates the idea of we're open tonight, we're going to dance, we're going to have fun, that kind of thing. It's just a fun track. Kind of like electrically charged ballad, very nicely done. And then it heads right into Spin It On. Spin It On is one of those tracks that's grown on me too. When I first heard it, I thought, okay, he's just really trying too hard on this one to make it some kind of like a punk kind of, new wave kind of thing. But this song has really grown on me, and especially after seeing the video on the Back to the Egg special. It's so much fun. They're having fun. It's just a fun track. It's goofy. The lyrics make no sense, just like Getting Closer. But the fun comes through, and it does. It does work on that. And then we come to, I love this song. I love freaking Denny Lane. You can always count on Denny Lane to really add a little to the proceedings and kind of bring it back down a little bit. Again and again and again. One of his best songs. I don't think it's his best song on Wings. I still think Time to Hide is his best song on Wings. But a hell of a song. Originally, Again and Again and Again was 2 songs. And when he sat down with the group and with Paul McCartney and played it, he had 2 different songs. And Paul said, well, why don't you just put them together? And there you go. And that's what he did. That's what genius does. That's genius. But a great song. And the lyrics are coherent. So they make sense. So again, great song, great addition. After that, we go right into Old Sam, Sir. Again, and this track is neat because it actually seems coherent. Great band number. That is one that really shows off Chris Thomas as a producer, shows off the band as a band. And Paul McCartney insisted we've got to work as a band. Think of yourself as a band, a working band. That's a killer track. That's a Wings track. That's not just a Paul McCartney track. That's a Wings track. Amazing song. But now the next track, Arrow Through Me, that's a Paul McCartney track. There's no doubt about that. In fact, this kind of preludes what's going to happen with McCartney too. Because when he finally just leaves Wings and goes solo, Arrow Through Me would have fitted on McCartney too just fine. It's got a little bit of that tinge of Darkroom in it, with a little melody. Very, very, very nicely done. Very nicely done. The lyrics are at least coherent. Again, a little weird, but coherent. They do make sense. Just a love song. But that keyboard and that horn riff and that, my gosh, he can do simple so well. In fact, he does better just very simple, straightforward, and then build on that. He really does. But anyway, a great ending. So the first side, I love the first side of this album. Despite the lyrics, which are stupid most of the time. But there's 3 or 4 songs on the first side that are coherent and make sense and are good. So overall, the first side, 4 stars, easily. Great first side. All right, then you flip over easy, which I want to show you this. This is cool, too. He's got the albums for Back to Egg. So you got here you go, Sunny Side Up, like this. And then he's got Over Easy for the next side. I thought that's really clever. Columbia went all out for this. Paul was really trying hard on this. I do want to give him kudos for the effort. I really do. But second side, we'll go to the second side. All right, Rockestra theme. Again, very simple, very trite. A good melody. I haven't had any dinner yet, or whatever they say. That's funny. But it needs solos. I would love, again, kind of like Maya Love on Dark Horse, I would love to just to hear them jam. If you got all these people, oh my gosh, 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes with David Gilmour and John Paul Jones. How can you not have Hank Marvin and David Gilmour in the lineup with John Paul Jones and John Bonham, and you've got all these people, and you're not going to let them solo? That's the bad thing. That's the thing that irritates me with Rockestra, because it's just trite and there's no solos, and it's a wasted opportunity. Anyway, but let's move on to To You. All right, To You is the next song. Another rocker, a very odd rocker. I love it. I have a soft spot in my heart for To You. I can't help it. I think it's such a quirky rocker, and I never understood the solo. The solo I thought would just sound like somebody just threw a bunch of notes and just... But what had happened is that while Lawrence Juber was playing the solo, Chris Thomas and Paul McCartney were using let me get this right, an Eventide harmonizer. For all you tech junkies out there, I don't even know what that is. But it would alternate the sound of his electric guitar solo, and every note he did, it would make it like a guitar synthesizer. They used a gizmo, too. I remember reading of Lowell Cream and Kevin Godley and Cream from 10cc. They left 10cc to develop their gizmo, which goes across the guitar and bows the strings like it makes a guitar synthesizer string sound. They used that, too, on this as well. I think on Reception they used that. And here they used the harmonizer to manipulate that. But I never liked the solo on this. I think the solo hurts it because it doesn't go anywhere. It's just like a mash of notes. And I'm like, okay, it's just like a noise. But the rest of the song I like. It's odd. I don't like the solo, but I like the rest of the song. Although Paul McCartney's vocal goes a little crazy, but he still is okay. Kind of like Montgomery Moon Delight, where it goes a little cuckoo, but still within the framework of the song, and it still works. So I think it's fine. But it could have been a B-side song. But then you get to the first medley on this album, After the Ball, A Million Miles. After the Ball is kind of like almost a gospel number. It's kind of sweet. But the lyrics, after the ball, you were the one in the hall, the one that loved me after the ball. I mean, come on. Again. And the Million Miles is just a tacked on little concertina, I think, or accordion that he uses on that. But, it's, again, a B-side song. It's okay. But then you get one of the greatest songs on the album, Winter Rose, Love Awake, especially the Love Awake section, which is just beautiful. And the video they shot with Linda, bless her heart, with Linda and the horse and the cat, I think is really sweet. I really do. So that's a great song, Winter Rose, Love Awake. And then we go into the broadcast, which is a little bit of a piano, a little synthesizer, and I think John Galsworthy, some quotations from him. At first I thought, okay, it's filler, it's nice, it suits the theme, but now I really like this. I love the piano part, and I think actually with the spoken word, this really works. This song actually works, or this interlude. It's more of an interlude, a set piece, but it does work for the album. I don't have a problem with it. And then it sets up into So Glad to See You Here, which, again, a song that's grown on me a lot over the years. Did not like it that much. I thought it was about as good as Not Such a Bad Boy or No Values on Give My Regard to Broad Street. But it's actually a really good song. Really good song. And I love the way he reprises We're Open Tonight at the end. Very well done. Oh, that's a genius move. McCartney loves doing reprises. It just holds the album together as a theme. Very well done. And then it sets up for Baby's Request, which is one of his best songs. I mean, just fantastic. What it was... him and Linda went on vacation to France, just in between recording sessions, take a little vacation, and they saw the Mills Brothers, the old Mills Brothers, 30s, 40s style kind of vocal group, And he wanted to write something for the Mills Brothers, so this is what he wrote. And it's kind of like a Hoagie Carmichael kind of thing, standard, something George and Ira Gershwin would write, something kind of like that. But this is perfectly neat. This is this really sweet song, really cool song, and the lyrics are good. He had to try on this one. If you're going to write a song from the Mills Brothers, you got to give them something to sing, and you got to get something that's worth singing. So, but again, it also emphasizes what's wrong with this album, because that song shows that McCartney can write lyrics, and cleverly. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be Shakespeare. Dear God, Bernie Taupin is one of the quirkiest lyricists I've ever. Him and Jim Steinman, I swear. But he's Bernie Taupin is one of the quirkiest writers ever. But he does it well. His writing works well, and Elton John, it suits Elton John. They work perfect together. That's all I'm asking. Just something coherent that means something to people. So lyrically, this album really is really bad. But musically, it's really good. Vocally, instrumentally, production-wise, fantastic. So, but the first side is a 4-star. The second side is maybe a 3-star. So this is about a 3-star album for me. I can't quite recommend it, but it's a good, solid album. Very, very good album from them. I hate it in a way because Lawrence Juber and Steve Holley were extremely capable, incredible musicians. He had two extremely good musicians. And then Denny Lane. This could have been the greatest Wings lineup ever. But we'll never know. We will never know. And the reason why, again, this album was great. The special was great. They were doing the tour. Everything was going good. But Paul said Linda was getting tired. Lawrence Juber said Linda was getting tired. Paul was getting tired. And then the Tokyo thing happened. All right, cool. Look, Paul and them, they were traveling over, got to Tokyo, getting ready for the tour. All right. Paul got busted at the airport. All right. Apparently with half an ounce of weed. Okay. Not a big deal. Okay. All right. They treated it worse than it was. But the thing is that Paul was put in jail. And I think him and Linda were separated for like 7-8 days. He ended up paying a hefty fine, and they had people that helped to get him out of there. But just saying, guys, look, if you go to another country, you've got to know the rules. Look, we've had recent things happen, okay, with certain athletes and things and all that stuff. No matter where you go, look, what might be right for you may not be right in somebody else's country. You've got to know the rules and regulations and respect other people's countries. It's a matter of ignorance and disrespect. Look, I don't. There's a lot of countries that do a lot of things that I don't agree with. There's a lot of things, that I don't agree with about a lot of things. But respect people. Always respect their free will. Respect their ability to choose. Respect their country. I mean, look, we've lost our sense of respect. We don't respect ourselves. We don't respect this country. We don't respect our parents. We don't respect God. We don't have any respect for other countries. I'm like, what has happened to everybody? It's like civilization just went uncivil. And that's you cannot have a civilization if the civilization refuses to be civil. It's like trying to build a moral nation on immorality. It will not work. It never has worked. Look what happened to the Greeks. Look what happened to the Romans. Immorality destroyed them. And it will destroy this country. And it will destroy the world. It is what it is. That's why Jesus said, that's what's happening. So but we've lost our sense of respect. Well, we need to respect ourselves. I mean, if you have no self-respect, then what can you do? So, other countries and all that, we do have to respect their laws and things. All right, even if we don't agree with them sometimes. Unless there's a real reason to protest. But then that's a protest. That has nothing to do with musician going over there and having a concert. That's just stupid. And Paul obviously said it was stupid. And bless his heart, Paul is trying to set a good example for his grandkids, and he said he doesn't do that anymore. I mean, it's fine if he does or doesn't, but the idea is that he's willing to give that up for his grandkids. That's a good guy. Trying to do the right thing. That's a good thing. Made mistakes, but everyone makes mistakes, and then you learn from them and correct them. But anyway, so yeah, he got busted. Just a side note, because the stoner in me has to say something. It's like, see, man, go big or go home. Unfortunately, Paul McCartney did go home. They sent him home, but he got back to the farm. Kind of let Wings kind of die out, peter out a little bit, and then he was working on. He rented the Studer. I think 8-track machine or whatever, 16-track or 2-track, 4-track, whatever the heck it was. He rented a machine to record some stuff because it relaxed him. So he started making the bulk of McCartney 2. And he had that's what happened because he was going on a tour and he had some McCartney 2 material and they played some of it live. And that's where the Coming Up Live in Glasgow came from. And it was a #1 hit, the live version. So much so that eventually the Columbia and them, they had to include a free one-sided single of the live version because everyone was buying the album and it was the studio version. They wanted the live version. So it's an interesting side note. But anyway, so with Linda getting tired and Paul getting tired, and they had 4 kids. I mean, they were trying to do kids and all this stuff. I mean, school and everything, that has come first. Paul McCartney has always put his family first. And he was getting tired of the road. Linda was getting tired of the road. The kids, they wanted to be with the kids and go to the farm. Denny Lane was getting irritated just a little bit because he wanted to be on the road more. He's like a road dog, man. Musician road dog, man. So there's a little friction there between him and Paul. And then the whole thing with John Lennon happened. John Lennon got shot. That was it. They pretty much retired until the late 80s. That was it. And that's another reason why Wings broke up. So you had Paul and Linda getting tired and wanting to be with the kids. You had the bust at Tokyo. You had John Lennon getting shot. Then you had Denny Lane wanting to be on the road more, and they wanting to be on the road less. And then, so it's just a combination of things. So it just kind of went out, okay? And then Paul McCartney had McCartney 2, so they already had a album ready, and boom, and then he went to Tug of War. And Denny Lane still worked with him. And Denny Lane worked with him Tug of War. I mean, Lawrence Stuber, they still worked sometimes together. They worked together on Ringo's Stop and Smell the Roses album, which really sucks. But hey, you know, the bottom line is that this was a good, solid album for Wings. I think this could have been a building block. This could have definitely been a building block. I think if they lasted one more album, I think it would have been a hell of an album. I really do. I think it would have been an amazing album. But anyway, a really good, solid 3-star album. It's not, I can't recommend it, but I'm certainly not going to disown it like it's a terrible album. It's a really good album. Solid. It's just the lyrics are bad. If the lyrics were a little more cohesive, and maybe if you cut this down a little bit, I'm always saying that, because to me, albums are too long. I think, you know, I want something good, solid, banger. It's funny, I used to always think that this album was better than London Town, because these two always do remind me of each other, just because of the way they're constructed and everything. But I'm totally reversed that. London Town is fantastic. There's not a bad song in London Town. There's a couple songs that are but overall a great album. It kicks this album's butt. It really does. And the lyrics in London Town are a little better. They're a little more whimsical, and it suits that album. This doesn't really suit whimsicality. Whimsicality and hard rock punk does not work. It doesn't, no. But anyway, good, solid album. Pretty cool. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I've got Jeff Lynne's ELO. I've got their Out of the Blue. I'm gonna do that one next. That's the next one I'm gonna do, I think. And to contrast Out of the Blue, any side of Out of the Blue you can pick, and contrast it with the second side of Back to the Egg. And Jeff Lynne schools Paul McCartney as far as songwriting. Just totally schools him. Takes him to school. He does. I mean, just incredible. Incredible songwriter. But anyway, good album. Good solid album. It's not one of Wings' best known albums, but it rocks like a mother, so you probably enjoy it. And definitely catch the special. That special is worth watching, especially the beginning and the end. Really cool how it comes on and how it ends. Really neat. But anyway, take care of each other. Love each other. Love and peace, man. Yeah, love God and love each other, man.